Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Anthony Luscri, Kilo 8 Zulu Tango, and I'm pinch hitting on Thursday night. I know you just saw me last night, so you're probably getting tired of me already, but I think I have a lot of information to share tonight on keeping up with amateur radio news and events. Now, this is the old way that we did all of our news, all on paper, but things have really changed over the 40 plus years that I've been in amateur radio. By the way, this is my contact information and my website. And this slideshow presentation will be available to download from the website. But if you want to click on this link, you can get to it, and it'll always be the newest version of it, tiny.cc/QST-ARN, Amateur Radio News. So many of you start your day with local, national, and international news, whether it's your daily newspaper, TV news show, broadcast radio, online news websites, or social media sites. Next, you might check on friends via social media sites like Facebook or Twitter, check your email. If you're a sports fan, you probably check on your favorite teams and players. I suggest as an act of ham, you may want to consider adding a dose of amateur radio to your daily news routine. Before we jump into the different resources, I want to talk about two different ways that you can get news. They are push and pull. Push news is sent out to you, to the consumer at regular intervals. It could include email groups, bulk emails, bulletins or newsletters with subscriptions, Twitter, blogs, podcasts, videos, etc. If they have a subscription where you can subscribe to them. Some social media apps with the notification function, and of course, postal mailings, the slow way of getting things out, but it's still pushed to you and it still shows up and you still pay attention to it. The other type of news you can get is pull news. In this case, the consumer must go to a site or search for the news. Websites with news, YouTube site, unless you subscribe to channels, online news aggregators, club websites, apps with no notification function, books and magazines, whether they're paper or online, bulletins or newsletters with no subscriptions. And one of the problems is we tend to forget to go out and pull our news on a regular basis. The push news shows up in our face all the time. So we have to remember to go out and take a look and visit the resources for pull services. So I'll give you some ideas to combat this problem near the end of this presentation. But if you want to jump ahead to that right now, you can click on the link in the slideshow and do that. Hopefully you will stay with me. So before we start with the individual sites, I have gathered up a lot of information on my website, k8zt.com. And anytime you see this little symbol or this font, or in most cases, any pictures on the page, you can click on them and they will take you out to a resource. So you're going to have a lot of homework after tonight because you're going to want to go to the full slideshow, bring it up on your computer so you can click on the links and view all the sites. On my news page of my website, I have a number of different things. This includes bulletins, newsletters, podcasts, YouTube, a whole variety of things. I just have a few links here, so it won't keep you busy for more than a couple of weeks going through these alone. Now, let's start off with ARRL News. The ARRL News is on the ARRL website, and so if you want to go view it, you have to go out and go there. Now, you can also subscribe and get a newsletter and a bulletin, which we'll talk a little bit about later, that get the news sent to you so you won't forget to do it. Also, in addition to the written form of the news, which we can see by just clicking here, by the way, it's very similar to the homepage, but the homepage has the news down here. On the news page, it actually just focuses on the news. You can also go to the link for the audio news and have the news in audio or podcast format. This audio news is updated once a week. The other news page is updated on an as-needed basis. So some days there's multiple updates, other days there's not. You can always go back through weeks and weeks of news by clicking on the next button at the top. Now, there's another way to consume ARRL news and some other news via what are called aggregators. And on the Ohio section homepage, I'll click on that for a link to show you, there's a link on here that is an aggregator. If we stay stopped here for a second, you'll see that this keeps scrolling down and it's pulling news from the ARRL website. So with something like this aggregator, you can see the news and it'll keep updating on the screen and cycling through. I also have one of these on our website for our local club that I manage. We'll talk more about aggregators a little later also. EHAM news and EHAM articles. Now the difference between the two, if we click on news, you'll see the news site first. The news site is pulled from a variety of sources, including the ARRL webpage. You're going to see some overlap in many of these sites because they use the same sources for the news. But that's the same if you look at the newspaper or any broadcast news or print news, you're going to find out that a lot of people are using the same stories from the same sources. Now, the articles are user-generated articles in most cases, and you go through here, they are more how-tos and personal experiences, and it's very interesting information here, such as antennas for QRP. They also rerun some of the articles, so this is a classic article, and you'll see that there. You also can write for the articles and submit your own articles, and they can show up in the list here. I've done that numerous times in the past. Ham Radio Daily is again a site with news. There's also bulletins available, including the DX bulletin, but it doesn't appear to be showing up right now, and a link to Ham Radio Media, which doesn't have anything right now. So this page is mainly going to be the news information and some other things on here. Let's see if some of these other links are not working. And this happens with pages. A lot of times they're maintained by one person. There was a great news site available for a number of years called Southgate Amateur Radio News. The gentleman that ran it became a silent key last year, and that was a big loss to the news in amateur radio. QRZ Now, also called Ham Universe, has a website. And I clicked on the wrong link, it appears. Let me try that one more time and make sure. Yep, I got the wrong link in there. So let's just grab this. Oh, it's not going to cooperate with me. So I will get that one later. Let me just type that one in, Ham University. I will fix that link afterward. So this is Ham Universe. And again, it has news on the main screen here, but it also has articles on the side, including how-tos and technical things. The Ask the Elmer column about batteries and a number of things. This site is very eclectic and sort of a mix of many things. I'm going to close a couple of these links because we'll end up with a couple hundred by the time we're done here. Amateur Radio News, also Newsline, also known as AR Newsline, is something that many people rebroadcast on their local repeater. You can download this and rebroadcast it. That's perfectly fine to do. This is a group of volunteers that put this together every week. They put it together on Friday. And you can also go to the website and listen to the recording, or you can go down and see the script and actually view it in written form. You can download the script and read it. And I always end up doing this because I always miss when I'm listening to it. I'm always doing something else and I hear something I want to pay attention to, but I miss either a call sign or a website. So it's very nice to be able to go to the text form of it and be able to find a website that they might have mentioned. QRZ.com has a couple news items on it. They have something called QRZ Now. Just taking a few moments to load here. Close a few other windows here while I'm waiting for that to open. Okay, we'll come back to it. Now, I mentioned aggregators before, and I showed you an example of an aggregator. I also have one on our local website. If you'd like to create an aggregator for your local website, it's very easy to do. Sometimes known as RSS feeds, they gather latest news stories from various websites and create a personalized news feed in one location. So this is a great way to pull in some of that pool news into one location so you don't have to visit multiple sites. There is a site, it's a surfing site of all things, called Surfing Waves, but on that site, it has a little utility to build your own widget that will allow you to then embed that on your website. They're doing it with surfing news here, but you basically choose the websites you want to pull the news from. You put them in there, you customize how wide you want it. You can add multiple feeds. I think you can add up to like 15 or 20 different sites to pull in information from. And you can design this widget, generate the code, and put it on your website. So on our local club's website, I actually have 2 widgets I built with that. Let me go to the right spot. CFARC, Cuyahoga Falls Amateur Radio Club. And if I scroll down, you'll see that we have these 2 widgets working here. One of them is pulling information from the 2 local national weather stations in our area, the Cleveland, Hopkins, and Akron-Canton Airport. It's pulling in the constant little updates on the forecast, but then we also have one pulling in information from EHAM, from ARRL, and from a couple other news resources on the side here. And the reason why they're so narrow and kind of hard to see right now is this is designed so someone can read it on their phone. And I could zoom in a little bit, I guess, so you can see it a little better on the website. But you'll see that you can set up how long it's going to take before it scrolls, and each of the things scroll. I had this one scrolling fairly quickly here at the 2. And quite often the 2 sites have very similar forecasts. That just scrolled again. And any of these, you can click on the link and it'll take you out to the full story. So it's a great way to be able to click on something and find out more information. So again, that is at the Surfing Waves site, and it's free. There's no charge. You can build your own widget, customize it, and be ready to use it. Amateur Radio Daily is an aggregate of notable news happening around the world. So again, it's one of those aggregation type of sites, and they just display it in a little different fashion. It's not scrolling, but they have the headline. You click on the headline, go out and read the full article from the original location. So again, this whole website is simply a form of news aggregation also. You can also get that a weekly email sent to you from that site. Now, mailing lists and social media groups, just like general news, much of amateur radio news we get daily is from citizen journalism, aka mailing lists, writers, and social media posters. So what's happening is a lot of things we take for news are really coming from third-party private citizens. A visit to your favorite social media or a quick search finds hundreds of amateur radio groups on a variety of popular social media sites. Now, you need to remember and have a caveat here of skepticism that the information is only as good as its source. Many of the posts and posters may be high on the melodrama and low on reliability. So again, you need to take it with a grain of salt. But if you're interested in the most up-to-date information and being able to ask and answer questions in almost immediate time, the mailing list and the social media are the way to go. You can simply ask a question and you'll get multiple responses. You can sift out the ones that are meaningless or insults or something else and look for the real gems that are there. I actually prefer mailing lists to social media. I think I get more information that way. It's a little more controlled fashion, and it's a very select group of people that are usually belonging to these specialty mailing lists. So mailing lists are a great way to do that. There's 2 main groups, Groups.io and mailman.qth. There used to be a bunch of Yahoo groups, but most of those have been discontinued. Groups.io, when you click on the link, it'll take you out to the Groups.io site. You need to create an account to use Groups.io, but it's very simple and free. Once you do that, you can manage all of the sites that you're subscribed to from there. You can also search for new groups that you might want to follow. So you can go out and search for new groups on this, and you can also view the messages from here if you want to, instead of in your email. So let's say you accidentally deleted from your email and say, you know, I wish I had that email from a couple months ago from the ARRL antenna. Let's pick another one here. Let's just go to another next page here. I want that email from the FT 897 site Yaesu. I can go back and go through there. I can also search through the messages and find ones that meet my needs. So in addition to receiving emails from this group every day, or if I want to, I can receive them in a digest format. The digest format means you don't get the emails as they come out. You get one compilation of all the emails at the end of the day. I prefer to actually get them when they come out. It's much more easy for me to sort through them and get rid of the ones I don't want. But this is a great thing because on Groups.io, you can have the archive and you can always go back and look. You can also do other things on the Groups.io. They can store files, photos, databases, etc. You can also create polls, chats, etc. But it depends on who owns that particular group, which of these features they choose to use. They don't need to use them all. Mailman.qth is another mailing list. And again, you can search for a wide variety of different lists that are out there. You can click on the directory of list. Okay, let's see if the qrz.now site came up. Not yet. There we go. So I clicked on the wrong one. It's taking a little off. There we go. There's all the lists, and you can see that there's just a few lists out there. Everything from local clubs to brands of radios to individual amateurs to different groups. So you can create your own list if you want on both Groups.io or mailing list, just as Dan has done on Groups.io with the RATPAC.io group and the New Hams group, the SEC EmComm group, and our in-house planning committee group. So they're all ones that are available using these tools. You can also create your own mailing list with other sites, but these two have a lot of amateur radio. There's also private and branded mailing lists available, sometimes directly from manufacturers, sometimes directly from different groups. Many social media platforms and support groups and organizations that might include amateur radio use. You can use the site's search functions to find appropriate groups, including Facebook, Mastodon, Twitter, Reddit, Ham Signal, MeWe, Pinterest, Instagram, and TikTok. Now, Ham Signal is a little bit different than the rest of them because they're all general information ones, but Ham Signal is a social media site just for amateur radio. So you can take a look at that. Take a look at Ham Signal. It just came out fairly recently, and it seems to have a more European slant right now as far as the people involved with it. But you can go ahead and sign up for an account and start playing around with that. Give it a try. On YouTube, on Facebook, you can join the RATPAC group on there. And you can follow us on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter, in addition to our website. So every week when Dan forwards the videos to me, I post them usually within a couple hours. So yesterday's was posted already. It's been posted since this morning. So if you subscribe here, you'll get a notification when those come out. Now, the ARRL has bulletins and newsletters. And some other forms of news, which we'll talk about. The bulletins break down into two different groups. The W1AW bulletins, those are bulletins that are generally sent out over the air and also available via email. You can also read them at the website. The general bulletins are typically not sent out on the W1AW broadcast, but you can have them emailed to you or you can read them at the website. In addition, the ARRL organization sections and division bulletins, newsletters, mass mailings, etc. So for example, in Ohio, we have the Ohio section journal that comes out from our section. And from the Great Lakes division, we also have a newsletter that comes out both of which you can subscribe to and get an email of when they're available. Different sections and divisions choose to do them in their own way. And I'll talk more about those later. Let's talk about the bulletins first, though. These are the W1AW bulletins. There's 5 of them: general, special, DX, propagation, satellite, and Keplerian elements. Now, I remember many years ago when I would listen on 80 meters to the W1AW bulletin and frantically copy with my pencil all the Keplerian elements down so I could put them into my computer to do the tracking. Fortunately, in most cases, Keplerian elements can easily be updated from the program themselves via the internet nowadays. The general bulletins are available either via email or on the website, and they include notification of one of them is the notification that the monthly digital edition of QST is available. That's to let you know it's out there, because you know when the one arrives in your mailbox because you see it, but the electronic format, you know when it's available. If you subscribe to this bulletin, you will get an email telling you that it's there and ready to be read. The ARRL contest update is a bi-weekly newsletter that has a lot of information on contesting. The Aries e-letter, I'm guessing many of you already subscribe to that, but if you don't, you're probably going to want to consider getting that bulletin. The ARRL Club News is a monthly club bulletin that comes out, and it just started a couple months ago. I think it started the first of the year. There's some additional ones, the ARRL board meetings and agenda. You can get these copies sent to you. ARRL instructor or teacher e-letter called Radio Waves, the IARU e-letter, publication announcements and special offers, and the ARRL legislative update. I'll talk more about how you can get all these in a few minutes. Now, I mentioned the Ohio section. We have the Ohio section newsletter you can go out and read. You don't have to be in Ohio to do that. And the way that Ohio does it is we have a monthly section journal, and then we have weekly updates called Postscript. So if you click on any of these, you can read them. You can also subscribe and get this emailed to you, a link of when this is available, and you can download the PDF and read it. I have a column in here every month. Scroll down to my column. Oh, there was mine. As the section youth coordinator, I write a monthly column for the section journal. There's also a newsletter. It's more of a blog writing from the Great Lakes, and it's called Dale's Tales because Dale is our division head. So each of the divisions has information available. Sometimes it's simply a text file. Sometimes it's simple emails. Sometimes it's a whole long written document like that section journal I showed you, and also for the section. So if you click on these links, you can find information on your particular section or division by going here to these sites, and then you would see who the information is and what's available from there. So in the case of the Great Lakes, there's a Great Lakes website out there with more information where you can sign up for that newsletter. Now, with so many resources and layers of development and time and change over the years, actually finding and using, subscribing to, etc., to the ARRL news resources is not always very straightforward. So I actually have a whole guide that I put together on that, and I'll be getting to get to that later in the presentation. But again, if you want to stop here when you're watching this video, you could jump directly there now. Let's talk about some more local items. Your local radio club might have a newsletter. It might be one of your best sources of local amateur radio news. You don't belong to a club? Well, you certainly should. Go immediately to www.arrl.org/clubs and find a club in your area and consider joining. If your club doesn't have an active newsletter, think about volunteering to start one or reboot one. If your club has a newsletter, write an article for your editor. They'll be very happy to get articles. Now, once upon a time, a simple printed and mailed, that's not misled, that should be mailed newsletter was only used from clubs today. That's not enough. Most clubs do not mail things. If anything, they'll email it. But the problem is once a month is not enough, especially with breaking news. Clubs should consider adding up-to-date website with news and resources, online public viewable and hopefully shareable calendar, social media presences on different resources, an email list. We have a meeting list that goes out once a week describing all the meetings and activities going on for our club. And they should serve both the members of the club, the general ham community, and especially newly licensed hams who might be looking for information in your area. They might stumble upon your club, and the first thing they might find is your website. Also, potential hams could find out you're having classes, and the general public. your own personal resources. Now, I'm not talking about your club now, I'm talking about you individually. Keep your information on QRZ up to date and consider adding or updating your biography. And what do I mean by that? If you go out to QRZ.com, and we'll try that one more time here with QRZ. If you go out to QRZ.com and you do a search for yourself, you might see just this little top portion, or if you went in and created a biography or biograph, you will see a whole, like almost a homepage of a website. And you can put all this information here, links, newsletters, information, whatever you're into, you can post it here very simply by going to your page. Now you need to sign up first so you have access to QRZ, then claim your call sign page. Once you do that, you can go in and edit that page. And this is editing the biography. And that's basically what the homepage is. It's got a little, what you see is what you get graphic HTML builder, very simple to use. You put in the information you want, and then you save it. Notice this is in an iframe, so you really can't see it now, but when it's published, you see that. That's my search log. You can put pictures, you can put text, you can put links. You can do all this very simply. If you don't want to do all that, just at least make sure you go to your page and make sure your information is correct. So that is where it says the first one, update the basic call sign data. That puts in your information. Check your grid square to make sure it's correct. Put your email address in there and answer whether you take QSL cards and how you do that. So again, make sure your county's right, your grid square, etc. If you have any previous calls, you can do all this. And there's no charge. There's charge for some services on QRZ, but there's no charge for maintaining your own web identity on QRZ. I would also do that for your club. In addition, you might want to consider writing and giving presentations to local groups or national groups such as RATPAC. Write for a magazine, local club newsletter, specialty club journal, etc. Write a blog, do a podcast, YouTubes, etc. Consider setting up and maintain a website with ham radio resources or news. Now that sounds like an awful lot of work, doesn't it? But do what you feel comfortable with. Share your personal experiences and what you have learned. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. And the things that you've learned over the years can be very helpful to other people. Start small, do a little bit at a time. The main thing I suggest is you focus on quality content, not fancy production. We've gotten so used to seeing YouTubes that look like they're produced by a television network where they spend many, many hours, multiple camera views, etc., special effects. Don't worry about that. Just worry about telling a good story with good content on how to do something in amateur radio. You can find a partner or group to work with. Convert something you're already doing into an electronic resource. And if, for example, we were teaching classes for technician and for upgrade to general for years. We have now added Zoom to it so we can do our classes online and to make them available to more people. So let's talk a little bit about bulletins, newsletters, and blogs. The ARRL has a blog called the On the Air blog. It goes along with the On the Air magazine that's available quarterly. DX Engineering has a blog called On All Bands, and actually a number of manufacturers have blogs. In this particular blog, I'm one of the writers on this, and if you go in here and search, you'll find information from me as one of the things. They have a technical section, they have product reviews, galleries, interviews, news and events, etc. And you can search on topics, you can search on the writer of the things, and you can find articles. So here's some articles I've written for the blog, and there's more and more and more. EmComm America has a blog. They actually have multiple blogs for all their different products. So not only do you want to go to the blog, but you want to narrow it down to the amateur section, and you can get information from their blog. Some sites do a better job of keeping their blogs up than others. Solder Smoke has been going on for many, many years. It's a blog and a podcast both. And there's a lot of good information on this particular site. Let's talk a little bit about DX news and ADXOs. ADXO stands for Announced DX Operations. That's stations that are going to be on there. NG3K has a great website for both DXing and contesting. When you go there to his site, I'm going to close a few more pages here again. When you go there, you'll see this little thing up the top. It says ADXO. That's the announced DX operations. So you see in May, these were the operations. In June, these are stations that are on there. By the way, if you need St. Pierre, it's going to be on at the end of June. If you want some of these other DX entities, I need the spaces in Cyprus. But unfortunately, today was the last day and I never heard them, so I'm not going to get that. And he keeps things going as long as people post things. So you'll see things all the way into 2024. Now, in addition, there's another tab at the top that says contest. It's very similar. There's not much there right now because the contests are pretty far off. But if you click on this, you'll see stations are going to be in the contest. About a month before the CQ Worldwide, this will fill up with stations. There'll be probably 60 or 70 stations here. And it's very helpful. A lot of times they are using special call signs for the contest or the DX expedition. So a great resource. I also have a whole page with DX news and resources on it, including G3K's site right here. You see it. But I also have a bunch of local and national DX groups, Texas DX, Northern California, et cetera, et cetera. You can go to all these different clubs. I also have spotting resources and information, some blog posts, YouTubes, international licensing information. This is all available on my DX and DX news portion of my website. DX World has a DXpedition timeline. I love this. It's just a simple 1 month timeline showing you who's going to be on the air. So right now we're at June 8th. And we see that there's a JD1 coming on. The T31 is almost done. I've worked them on a number of bands. I was lucky enough to do that. There's been a DXpedition to Iceland by PD9DX. He's been very, very active. So these are a place where you can find out what's coming up in the DX world just at a glance. And this is something you can embed this little tool on different websites. So you might want to embed that maybe on a link on that from your club's website. The ARRL also has a DX bulletin that comes out, and you can go back and look at old versions of it. It's a text bulletin. It's very simple text with no graphics in it, but it does have good information in it. Contesting news. WA7BNM's contest calendar is a great resource for almost every contest out there, and you can sort it and dice it and slice it in any way you want, by weeks, by different types of contests. You can even customize your particular choices. Go through and check the ones you want and uncheck the ones you don't want, and those will be the only ones that show up on the calendar. I typically use the 8-day calendar. It has the little graphic here, but then you can click over here on the side and get details. So the ARRL VHF UHF contest is coming up. They have the geographic focus, the modes, the bands, the classes of operation, the exchange, points, multipliers, where to upload the log out when you're done, and also where to find the full rules. And this is invaluable if you're into any kind of contesting. Bruce Horn, WA7BNM, maintains that. He also maintains another website called the 3830 Scores and Contest Rumors. And this is a place where contesters post their scores right after the contest so they can compare scores while they're waiting for things to show up in the magazines months and months later. So you can simply upload your information on any of the current contests and then go look at the results. So of course, no one has entered anything in the June contest because it hasn't started yet, but this will fill up with information very quickly. So last week there was the, let's see, CQWPX. So we can go in there and see there's a lot of people that post to this, and it gives you a good idea of how your standings are. It isn't adjudicated, it's just rumors. And this came about, the name comes about from the place that they used to meet on 80 meters at 30.830 lower sideband to give rumors after the contest. They double all contest update. Again, you can have it emailed to you, so you can subscribe to it and you'll get an email of that. And then I also have a contest and calendars resource page, very similar to the DX page I had, but there's even more links here than there is on the DX page. Amateur radio newsline, I already mentioned that earlier. Amateurradio.com is a blogs. These are blogs, a variety of blogs from different people, and you can click on these links. Some are YouTube, some are video, some are just audio. So Ham College has a video, other ones have just podcast. And there's a wide variety of people that contribute to that. The rain report, it was around for years, but it started back up again. And I have a funny story about the rain report. They also rebroadcast this on 160 meters in the middle of the night. One night I was working a contest. It was very late. It was after midnight. And I tuned, and all of a sudden I heard my own voice coming back to me. And they had a recording of me that they were using on their rain show that night. And I was just shocked to hear my own voice coming back to me. It wasn't any kind of atmospheric anomaly where it was coming back like Frequency or one of those movies, but it was weird to hear my own voice. The weekly Amateur Radio Weekly is again another resource with a newsletter and some information in it. Now, this is an example of a blog that I read every time when it comes out, and it's really nice. And I brought this up as an example. I know it's QRP, and you might not be into QRP, but I want to show you the way Tom does his blog. It's very interesting. He has a picture that rotates with a piece of QRP equipment at the top every time. He has different types of POTA activities and tests of equipment, and he goes out and shoots videos, but he doesn't edit the videos. He doesn't spend time editing. He's always out making new videos and testing things, and he doesn't spend a lot of time with production. But the nice thing is you can go on the side and you can go back to any of the previous topics and see all the posts that have to do with it. So if you're interested in field day, you can see all the articles he's done on field day over the years, and you can go through any of those, or you can go to one of the different types of equipment, or you can search for it. So he has a written column. You can subscribe to it and get an email when each new one comes out, and then you can go to the website and read the content and view the videos. I think he does a wonderful job on that particular blog. These are all podcasts. The Amateur Radio News I mentioned earlier. Newsline I mentioned earlier. There's also This Week in Amateur Radio, which is one of many amateur radio podcasts, and it's called the TWIAR. And there's a variety of podcasts available that you can play, newsreels basically. There's podcast archives that you can go back through. QSO Today podcast. These are interviews with leaders in amateur radio. This is Eric Guth does this. And when you go to that, he has done 453 episodes where he's interviewed amateur radio operators who contributed significantly to the hobby. And you can go back and read all these. He also turns them into transcripts. So if you'd rather read them later, you can download the PDF and read them. You can also search through these and find people in here. Doesn't go all the way down. You got to search from the top up here, and you can search for someone in there. So episode 305 was me, and you can go back and listen to that if you'd like to. Ham Nation has had a running show for quite a while with some very well-known hams on it. There's a group of hams that do this together.
On Ham Nation, Gordo fries a turkey with some radio. George has a brand new favorite.
And so forth. I also have a link for blogs and webcasts. Now, magazines. There used to be a lot more amateur radio magazines than there are now. 73, Ham Radio, World Radio, Ham Radio Horizons. But now, there's not many out there. But if you want to go back and read previous versions of all these. There's a number of places, including the Internet Archive and the new Digital Library of Amateur Radio and Communication. We just had an interview with the person that runs that, and he actually archives all the RATPAC shows there also. This radio history site is very interesting. Let me try that one more time. For some reason, I popped out of the slideshow mode. Let's try that one more time here. So this world history of radio and electronics has a wide variety of things going all the way back to the early aughts. And it's both radio, commercial, and amateur, but it also has a lot of music, electronics. You can read old electronic magazines and radio station information. I'm going to close a few of these links so I don't keep getting dumped out of my slideshow. Now, there are some non-US magazines from different companies, such as RADCOM, Funk Amateur. There's the quarterly On the Air by the ARRL and the quarterly QEX and National Contest Journal, but there's only 2 monthly full service US magazines, QST and CQ. I have links to those. I suggest you subscribe to both magazines. They're both available in print and digital format. And there's pros and cons to each of those different formats. Also, many clubs put out quarterly journals or monthly journals or yearly journals. The QRP ARCI has one called the QRP Quarterly that I used to write for. AMSAT has one. There's a lot of DXing clubs. I have a link here to DXing clubs. You can find one in your area, and they probably have a newsletter of some sorts. Same thing with contesting groups. I put together some information collections of general news, DX news, contesting calendars, etc. You can click on these links. Now, amateur radio videos, there's thousands and thousands and probably millions of amateur radio videos out there, both pre-recorded, such as the majority of YouTube videos. Some are live streams via Zoom. Some are recorded live with audiences, such as RATPAC. Some of them are done on Facebook, WebEx, etc., etc. Some are interactive live meetings. The quality runs the entire gamut, and although you might learn invaluable lessons, just as with other social media, skepticism is essential. As with any internet search, it's always important that you know it's always important that you not just find what you want, but know what you found. These are a number of YouTube channels I suggest you try out first because there's so many out there. And then I have 2 lists, the list of 33 and 25 favorite groups out there. And I'll fix the links that are not working. I just wrote this on Monday afternoon, so I'm still tweaking some of the links. But these are some of the ones I suggest trying out. And the one one of my favorites of all the list is the TRX Lab. He diagnoses problems with radios, and it's really, very interesting and very educational. Some of you may have heard of this group. The pandemic has boosted online training for many groups, and amateur radio is no exception. The ARRL has a whole thing called the Learning Network, and when you go there, you have to sign in with your amateur radio, with your ARRL membership, just like you do on the website. And once you do that, you can access the material on this page. And I'm not going to wait for it to load here, but there's webinars, electronic communication. There's a class on here called Introduction to Amateur Radio Contesting that I did. There's 5 modules in that. There's online licensing classes you can search for by using the typical class search on the ARRL website. But when you do that, you want to put in online in here, and it'll tell you which classes are online. EmComm resources. The ARRL has the Aries letter that you can get issues of. There's emergency communications field instructor resources, emergency communications training information, and EmComm training FAQs. FEMA has newsletters and bulletins that you can subscribe to. Not only can you subscribe to general bulletins, but you can also get bulletins that are specific to your region. So for example, I'm in region 5, California, Nevada, and Arizona in 9, 4 is down here in the 4 land, which is rather fitting for that. So you can subscribe to either the territorial or the general FEMA newsletters. CISA also has newsletters, and SAFECOM has joint summaries, announcements, and partner organization newsletters, tribal newsletters. These are some EmComm and weather resource sites, WB8OIF's EmComm in the news site. Check your state Department of Transportation for real-time notices and bulletins. You can probably subscribe and get notices of bulletins of road closures, road work, etc. Some of them have apps. There's an app available for Ohio called OGO, and OGO lets you install this on your phone and get updates on your specific region. They let you pick your region. You can use the whole state, but you can find out what's going on. I'm in the Akron area. I'm actually right up here in Stowe, and I can see that there's road work going on State Route 43 in both directions. These can be very helpful in an EmComm situation to have the links to your Department of Transportation information. Very similar with the U.S. Forest Service. They put out bulletins on issues in the forest. NAPSG Foundation has something called the Fire Mapper, and you can choose your area of the country and see what the fire situation is real time in your area. So you can go in here and you can search for places, or you can just go through the map and take a look. CERT has a Emergency Management Institute information newsletter. They also have National CERT Action newsletter, and then there's newsletters for different regions. There's one for Ohio, for example. National Weather Service Skywarn has news on their website you can go to. You can also do an email subscription for the National Hurricane Center. This one I really love for when I can't tell whether it's lightning or fireworks during the summer. I can see active lightning in my area. We've not had any rain for 19 days and no lightning at all, but I think Dan's been having lightning out west there, so we could go out and see what the light, and it gives you real-time show of where lightning strikes are taking place. And it's really interesting to be able to do this. Another weather resource is the United States Power Outage Map. This will tell you about power outages at different places in the country, and you can click on a state and you can go to that state and get more information on power outages. You might also have one specific to your state or your electric company. With the First Energy has a Storm Center Ohio that lets me zoom in on different areas of Ohio and see what's going on as far as outages go. It tells you how many people in what area. Weather Underground has great resources, including ones you can import into your website. You can also get an email subscription to the National Hurricane Center. You can explore the world's best weather APIs. By using these weather APIs, you can bring information into your own resource. If you have additional EmComm or weather-related resources that you want me to include in this presentation, please email those to me. I'd be happy to add them if appropriate. Now, I mentioned earlier about the ARRL website and how sometimes things are not as easy as they seem. So I put together a guide. Just remember, though, the things may change on the website often. So first of all, as an ARRL member, you're eligible to receive one journal via the mail. You can either choose with the one that most people do, the monthly QST, or you can get the quarterly on the AIR magazine. But are you aware that all of the magazines and journals are available for you to read electronically, no matter which one you receive? So let's talk about those. QST is the most popular monthly one. On the Air, as I mentioned, is an alternative bi-monthly magazine designed for new amateur radio licensees. You can receive that in place of QST, or you can read it electronically, just as you can with QST. On the Air companion podcast I mentioned a little earlier, QEX is a technical oriented bi-monthly. I said quarterly earlier. I'm sorry, it's bi-monthly. Features technical articles and columns. Again, you can read that online, or you can have it sent to you for an additional cost. Same thing with the National Contest Journal. And there's by clicking on this link here, you can go and access all of the magazines. You have to be a member to be able to access them, but here's where you can visit and see all of the magazines in electronic format. While you're at it, you might as well get a free issue of CQ magazine. This link will take you out and let you get a free issue. And you can get a free sample. I didn't mention that if you're not a member of the ARRL, you can get a free sample of all 4 magazines by clicking on this link and going to that page and asking for those particular magazines. Or you can simply read a sample right on the website. I mentioned ARRL audio news, but there's also some other podcasts. Unfortunately, 2 of them are now silent keys as far as podcasts go, but they have all the previous ones. The Eclectic Tech podcast is available, and The Doctor is In. Both of these were very popular podcasts, but they're no longer being produced. The ARRL also has a YouTube site, a YouTube channel. It's called the ARRL Headquarters, and it has a variety of news stories and other types of YouTubes that you can watch. You don't need to be a member to get to that. The ARRL also has done webinars in the past, but the early webinars that they started out during the pandemic, a lot of them are available at gotostage.com. You don't need to be a member to get to those early ones. And you can just go down here and you can see a wide variety of ones that are available. Here's Fun with Digital. This is one of the first ones. Actually, I think it was the second one that they did. It was the one that I did on FT8 and FT4. The later ones are only available on the ARRL Learning Network, so you have to be a member to get to them. In addition to the current issues, as a member of the ARRL, you can utilize several features to access previous issues and additional resources. There's a periodic index, an annual index for QST, QST in-depth information, QST product reviews. This link, by the way, was broken. I contacted them on Monday and they fixed the link, so it's working now. This is an invaluable resource if you remember to be able to see all the product reviews that have been published in QST. The digital QST fact tells you how to use the digital version with instructions on step-by-step. There's also the Android app and the iOS app if you want to read your digital QST on your phone. There's also a Kindle app. There's binary files from 1965 to 2010. The links for binary files, these are programs and things that are created as they go along with articles. The links for later issues are available via the online version. So when you're reading an online version now, you can simply click on the link, it'll take you right to it. Before, when you're reading the paper magazine, you had to go to the website to find the files that were included. There's also additional resources for QEX articles at this link. I mentioned earlier, there's 2 types of mailing lists, the bulletins there's 2 types of ARRL mailing lists, not bulletins. There's announcements, which are often referred to as the bulletins that I listed earlier, but there's also discussion groups. This discussion groups is basically a custom branded version of Groups.io. And when you go there, you can choose which of the mailing discussion groups you want to join, just like you would any Groups.io site. You can also receive the W1A1 bulletins via email. And to do this, you need to go to your online member profile. And I'm actually going to show you this because it's somewhat confusing. You need to log in. Once you're logged in, you need to click. Let me show you what it looks like here. You need to click on your account, and then you'll get this next page. So you click on your name at the top. They don't really tell you that anywhere. Once you click on your name, you get this special page that comes up. Once this page comes up, you come down here on the left and you go to where it says opt in, opt out. And when you do that, you can choose any of the bulletins you want to receive. Just check mark them. And then, I'm sorry, you got to hit the edit button first. It's not the most intuitive thing. You gotta hit the edit button first. Then you can choose which ones you want. You can turn them on or turn them off. Once you're all done, you need to click the save button and you will get those emailed to you. So again, I have the instructions here on the page, but you need to log in onto this. Then you need to go to opt-in, opt-out, then you use to choose edit, and then you can select any of these that you want to receive via email. If you want to join the mailing list, as I said earlier, you notice they're groups.io. They look like groups.io, but they have an ARRL link on them. They have a list here. You go to this site and you can sign up for them. These are the ARRL online forums. Now, this is completely different. This isn't the discussion groups. These are forums. Now, some of these forums are really, really old. They've not been used. Other ones are active. When you click on this link for forums, you'll see what the forums look like. Again, you have to be logged in. I'm already logged in here. You'll see, for example, that this one had something posted 4 days ago. That's great. Well, this one had something posted 3 years ago. This one had something posted 6 months ago. This one had something posted 7 years ago. This one had something posted in April. So it really depends on the group whether it's active or not. But these are the forums, and you don't hear much about these, but they are some good information on some of these, and some of them actually have a lot of information on them that's updated frequently. Other ones are pretty useless. So I have a list of all the different forums. They're broken down by awards, contesting, education, amateur radio in the classroom, and technology. Now, each division and section manages its own news and web presence. The headquarters does not do that. And you can find information about that by clicking on either the link here that says section, division, email log. When you do that, it takes you out to this page. There's a drop down on this page. You can choose either your division or section. And when you do that, you will see all the emails sent out to members from that section. So these emails for the Ohio section are basically telling you and giving you a link to the newsletters. So this is a text file, but it has the link to the newsletter telling you about it. Other sections simply have text messages and don't have links. It really depends on what section. One of the nice things about this, though, is you can view the information from any section or division that you want to. So let's say we want to go out and see, I don't know, Montana, click the log, and we'll see the messages. And there's a message about the Lewis and Clark Trail, and you can go to that. You can also subscribe to individual division or section information, but you have to go out and click on the section or division and do that, and then find the link to their website, and then go out and subscribe. There's no one way to do them. They're all different. But here's an example showing you how to read those email logs. The Technical Information Service and the ARRL Lab have resources available to you, including the ability to ask them technical questions. They have a how-to section, tells you how to do different things, how to work on radio interference, radio technology topics, ARRL videos, companion software, QEX files, QST files, how to compare. They have the product review transceiver summary, lab manual, and then you can also send an email to tis@arrl.org if you're a member, and you can ask them technical questions. If you're not a member, they'll send you a little thing asking you to become a member. You can also watch a video of the ARRL lab that they have with Adhere. If you're not currently a member of the ARRL, you really should consider joining, and you can receive a free printed version of the magazine by clicking on this link to get a sample. This is an example of one of the RATPAC's online training. We did 3 weeks of training on Beginner's Guide to HF, and you can view the slideshow. We did 4 weeks on VHF and UHF. By the way, we're going to be doing the 4th week on HF coming up in 2 weeks, myself and Dennis Kidder, W6DQ. I also maintain a link for all my presentations with the slideshows. videos if there's been a video recorded, and then any other resources that are useful for that particular one. So for example, this presentation today will be listed here eventually with the link to the presentation and a link to the video. If your local club would like any of my presentations, just contact me. I'd be happy to do that. And then the final section here talks about how you can deal with push and pull. Well, push isn't a problem because it gets pushed to you, but the problem with pull is you have to remember to do it. So I have some ideas on how to combat that problem. And it's really a problem with a lot of different sites. It's a problem with websites with news, YouTube, online aggregators, club websites, apps with no notification, books and magazines. All of these, you need some way to remind you to pull it. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You could build one of those little custom aggregators that pulls news in, and that way you only have to visit one page. You might use one of the many free tools out there to monitor website changes, and this will remind you that a website has changed their content. You'll get an email saying, hey, Daily News has changed this content. That'll remind you to go there and view it. You can also use a web scraping tool like Automato to have it go out and look for things on websites. You can also monitor tables of data for information using some of Google Sheets built-in HTML functions. One line of code allowed me to pull all the field day results into a spreadsheet, and then members could sort and parse the spreadsheet very easily. Also, if you ever go to the website for the State QSO Party Challenge, the leaderboard is set up that way using one simple spreadsheet command to pull the information from 3830 and then show it in different sort. So all this information is being pulled by one line, one simple function in a spreadsheet, and then using the sort function. So if you're capable of doing that, you can try out some of those things. Oh, come on. I knew I was pushing it tonight. We'll see if, okay, good, recovered. So the other way you can do it is simply to build one page that you use as one of your links, one of your tabs on your browser. It could be your home page, and you can make a simple DIY build using an HTML editor, create your own little web page, and then you can just see that web page with all the links for the sites you want to visit. You can simply click on the sites, or you could use the bookmark facilities, but it gets a little crowded. You notice I have a ton of bookmarks, so if I go out and see my bookmarks, it's just really hard to tell. You can also build a simple Google Sheet or a Google Doc, like my spreadsheet that I showed you with my links on it. You could simply do this with the links that you want to visit, have the information there, click on it, and that would take you out. You can also use some browser extensions. Browser extensions let you build custom web pages, and there's a number of different ones out there, both free and paid. They let you build basically a window that when you bring it up, you can have all the links to all your news sites you want to visit on one page. Now, one of the things I do want to mention though is on your local club's information, don't limit it to pull only, because people will forget to pull it. You need to be pushing out club information. So you might want to use email blast or email mailing list to distribute newsletters, updates, etc. Consider a shareable calendar like Google Calendar, which members can subscribe to. Consider using social media with push capability. So that's it. That was all 94 slides. I threw it all together the other night. Hopefully there was some good information there. I'll go ahead and take questions and answers and comments. We'll start with the ones in the chat. If you have a question, please raise your hand, and myself, Dan, or Barry will acknowledge you. So let me just go through the chat here real quick.
Lower your desktop.
Yes. There we go. And we'd love to see your smiling faces also. At the end of each presentation, okay.
Barry, how we doing there?
We've answered just about everything. There's lots of suggestions for different services to use, like on Mastodon. Mastodon.radio is an amateur radio group that's an alternative to Twitter. And there's
Yes,
a lot of suggestions in there, but there aren't any questions.
Okay, and I'm on Mastodon, by the way, also. So raise your hand if you have any questions. Be happy to try and answer them. And again, you have to go through the whole slideshow and click on all the links.
Presentation will be posted later along with the slides, so you can easily get this information.
And if you find a broken link, let Dan or myself know and I will fix it and re-upload the slideshow then. No questions tonight?
Holy cow, you're getting good, Anthony.
Actually, I just put everyone to sleep, I think.
Okay, are there any comments out there?
Any sites I missed?
Boy, a quiet bunch tonight, bunch of quick crickets out there. Well, you think of something afterwards, email Anthony or myself, and we will make sure that his list gets updated. But if it comes to me, I'll just send it over to Anthony. So whatever you have there, but we're always looking for ways to expand our data.
You put it on groups.io too.
Yes.
And we're always looking for new programs to do too. So if you have a suggestion for a program, just go to ratpac.us. There's a button you can click there that'll let you suggest topics. Or if you don't have something you'd like to present yourself, make sure you do that. And you can also put in that information and we will. Can you show again the presentation code for the presentation? Yes, I'll do that right now. You can either type that in, it's tiny.cc/qst-arn, or you can shoot that QR code with your phone and it'll open that page up for you. And I'll leave that up there and see whether we have any more questions while that's up. Oh, also radio related, amateur radio direction finding or radio orienting. I don't have any links on that. He suggests going to homingin.com for the latest news. National Interagency Fire Center keeps a real-time list of active wildland fire suppression operations. It includes the number of firefighters and resources assigned. Everbridge is used in many local counties. Okay, I'm assuming they got the link, so I'll go ahead and stop the screen share again. Other questions, comments, suggestions? All complaints go to Dan.
All right. Well, it's about 12 after. We've had a great presentation. For those who wonder, we had a cancellation night. We normally reserve Thursdays for disaster communication type presentations. Everything from FEMA to you name it, go packs for whatever. And unfortunately, at the last moment, we came up with 0, and Anthony says, "Okay, I got one ready." So. Good for Anthony. Appreciate you, sir.
I added the EmComm stuff tonight as soon as I found out I was doing this. So those extra 6 slides.
He is the EmComm guy tonight. All right, folks. With this, I'm going to say 73s. We'll call out one more time. Are there any comments or questions or whatever, or forever hold your peace?